Hello, everybody. Hopefully,
Hi
we do
there.
okay tonight. No double talking. It was a lot of researching and a lot of trying to figure things out. If we do go double talk tonight, we'll try to isolate who it is and have them just end their stream, and we'll try to continue on. But so far, everything seems to be working well. So,
No echo, echo,
no,
echo.
no
Whoops.
echo, echo, echo. So tonight, what we're going to be looking at is this little aspect right here. Oh, look at the beautiful ladies. We all went to the Oriental Spa. We're going to talk about Stenciling Savvy.
Yeah, we look
And
good.
yeah, I sent that picture to my husband on his phone. He was laughing about it. Um, but have you ever really wanted to stencil, but you've met poor results and you've just given up doing it? Well, after tonight, we're going to put some confidence back into stenciling to give you successful results. And you are going to learn that all stencils are not created equal. There's a right stencil for the right job and the right tool for the right job. So we're going to take some of that mystery out of that for you. Um, it's basically the breakdown of the program is going to be stencils, tools, paint techniques, and problem solving with maybe what you have going on. So the very first example of a stencil that I am going to give you is this one.
Do we want to introduce
Oh
first?
yeah, you guys, I am so bad with it. Thank you, Lavonne. We are
You're
the
welcome.
Flippin Bunch. We are a group of ladies that love everything around flipping. We decided to form a group where we bring and share our information with everybody out there. So you learn from our mistakes, or maybe we can give you some inspiration. I'm just going to start with myself and go right down the row. Then I'll go to Mara, and then I'll go to Lavonne. My name is Dar. I am from DIYs by Dar on most social medias and YouTube. I am a brand ambassador for Made by Marley company out of Scotland. I have a booth in a boutique, and I have a couple online stores. So Mara, you're up.
Mara from Borderline Furniture. And as the name suggests, I like furniture in its borderline state. I like the challenge of taking something that's either outdated or broken and recreating or reimagining it. This is not a full-time job for me. I have a full-time job. This is more of a hobby, and I just really enjoy it. I'm going to turn this over to Lavonne.
All right. Well, I'm Lavonne from Statement Designs. And before I introduce myself, as Dar said, we just, she said it like almost like we patterned our logo sort of loosely around the Brady Bunch. And part of the words in the theme song, they're a group that somehow formed a family, and that's kind of what happened to us. So, but anyway, we are kind of like family, but we're the Flippin Bunch, the Flippin Bunch. So, but anyway, I flip furniture and I do smalls. And just today, I found a new place to put some things. A friend of mine has a bed and breakfast, and she has people that buy things from her. So I'm going to start putting some things there. And beyond that, I too am a brand ambassador for Made by Marley. And that's about it. I know I have to get busy on some challenge pieces that are due this month, so that's going on. So, hey Cheryl. All
Hey,
right, Dar.
Cheryl. Yeah, Lavonne's gonna man the comments, and I'll try to put some up if I see them, or if she tells me to put one up, I'll put it up. The first thing that I'm going to show you is a stencil here, and this is a very thin stencil that's about 5 mils. And I'm going to explain to you what the mils mean in stencils. And these are going to make another reappearance in a little video here at the end. So that's what these two look like. And I'm just going to show you what they look like right on the video here. You can see how flexible they are. So this is a 5 mil. And this one you can see, this has got a whole world of problems on its own because you really have to stick something like this down to get it to work effectively. So the next stencil I'm going to show you is a made by Marley stencil, which is right here. And their stencils run about 10 mils. So that's a made by Marley stencil. And the next stencil that I'm going to show you is a redesigned by Prima. And that one is going to run 14 mils. And I should go back and I'll just show you what the difference when you're picking them up on how thick they are and what you're going to get for thickness. Like here is this is the redesigned by Prima. So you can see it's still pretty flexible, but it's got some heft to it. This is the kind of stencil that, I like to use. And
yeah, the redesign with Prima, I've had some stencils from them that are, I think, even heavier than that. Just super duper heavy, almost too heavy for my taste.
Yeah, if you want to try to wrap it around something, you have difficult. And this is the made by Marley. It's not quite as thick as that redesigned by Prima, but all of her stencils are running like that. They're still pretty flexible, but they're pretty beefy. So
that's the perfect weight for me.
Of all different types of stencils. The next stencil I'm going to talk about is this one. And this is actually a vinyl stencil. And I got one that has a little bit of crackle there and one that is the alphabet. And these work just a little bit different. They're vinyl. And they're going to be really, really flexible. And I'll just peel this. They usually come on a backer sheet. If I can peel this off and I can show you. They come on a backer sheet, and you can see how thin they are. But this is sticky, okay? So this is going to stick down on whatever you're creating. And
does that have a little mesh in it? Is that like a silk screen stencil?
This one,
or is the opening totally a hole?
It has silk, almost like a silk screen. Yeah, that's about what it is. It has the mesh in it. And they're very, very sticky, so you don't have to worry about spraying it with anything or putting it down with any type of tape. Yeah. But the application is a little bit, can be a little bit different with these. You can still use a short, stubby stencil brush, and you really have to work it in, or you can use a straight edge, and there are special paints for this type of stencil. They're thicker. They come in a paste, and you use a little squeegee, and then you could just almost like a silk screening technique, and pull it across the top like a squeegee. Yeah, and I do like these a lot. I have a really great ones. Go ahead, Lavonne.
Gretchen says, I love that stencil. I think she was referring to the Made by Marley one, maybe. She said, someday I hope to be able to handle one without sticking or taping down. Goals. And good evening. Good to
Well,
see you.
yeah, I have a little video here to show you kind of some of my first attempts at stenciling, and try not to laugh too hard. But since then, I can put a stencil up and hang on to it, not have to put sticky stuff on it or tape it. But it's taken well over a year for me to get to that point. But
Yeah.
you still should be able to try it and have some confidence that it's not going to turn out badly.
Well, I have a question on the vinyl one before you go on. It has its own stick on the back. So once you get done using it and you go try to wash it off, does that cause problems with the back of it? Or is it so thin that it tears? Or is it one-time use only?
No, you can reuse them and they stay sticky. Actually, after you wash them, if they've picked up dirt or lint, when you wash the stencil, it'll wash off.
Oh, okay.
And since we're right talking about that one, what I am going to tell you is if you use some of those screen type stencils, try not to use acrylic paint on them, because once that acrylic paint dries, you're not going to be able to get it out of all that mesh, and then you're going to have blockages on that stencil. Stick to a chalk paint, because that chalk paint will wash out of those way easier, and you want to take it directly to your sink and wash it right away once you're done with it, or put it in a bowl, pan, bowl, whatever, bucket of water, so that paint does not get hard, and that is going to help you reuse those. I think some of them do say, they may have a limit of 15 to 20 uses, but I've not reached that point yet with any of my vinyl mesh type stencils.
I've noticed too, so sometimes I participate in a collaboration called Stencil Sunday, and they use those silkscreen stencils a lot. I think it's from Chalk Couture that has them, I'm pretty sure. But when they go to use them, they have like a towel there, and they stick it down on there and pull it back up to take a little bit of the sticky away, so it's not too sticky on your project. So
yeah,
that's a little
I just asked the one gal I watch is the Girl Friday. She's in that stenciling group, and she does a lot with the stencils. And she had a towel, and she was sticking it down, and I kind of figured it was because if you're making something with paper, it could tear your paper. So they're taking some of that stick off that vinyl, so you don't tear your paper if you're making cards or something, maybe a picture that might have paper.
That's good point.
I noticed that too. So they are sticky. They're not going to move, I'll tell you that. I do like them.
Mm-hmm. And you can use more paint, and you don't need to worry about, going underneath the stencil and getting bleed through.
Yeah, right. You're not, bleed through is almost, I don't want to say impossible, but you don't get it. You don't get any bleed through, but you still have to press quite firmly and make sure you get that paint down through that mesh.
Mm-hmm.
Now, these are just some hand cut ones with an X-Acto knife. These were some that I had made, and this is with some stencil cardstock, and it has almost like a wax coating on it. So I would say, you probably could take and wipe that off. But it's just like a cardstock. So I want to say it's almost as heavy as that 14 mil, that redesigned by Prima material that you're going to use. And I'm going to get to a cool little device here that Lavonne sent us a picture of.
Okay, that's a stencil cutter. It's kind of like a burnishing tool. You plug it in and it gets real hot and you can easily burn yourself, but it just has a tip. And then I think the next slide has, all you do is put your Mylar or your stencil material over a picture that you want to cut out or, you know, make a stencil of. And it's super easy. You just trace it like you're using a pencil and your pieces come out. And I would say the tip to using it is don't lift the point. The more you lift the point, the more risk you have of getting like uneven edges. So try to keep it down all the time until you're done with
You
that.
You have to have a steady hand then.
Kind of. And I also recommend doing it on, like, I don't know, like even a glass top table or something like that, you know, or a marble top or something that you don't have to worry about any heat transfer going through, you know, through to your table, you know. So Bronnie says that we're going with her on a treasure hunt this morning. She's going thrifting. So we're joining her.
I'd like to
I
know
hope
if
you find
she is
cool
getting
treasures like those 2,000 miniature perfume bottles, which I can't wait to see what you do with some of those. That'll be cool.
And
Yeah,
what
I
did you
was
say,
wondering
Mara?
if she's getting furniture or if she is getting smalls, you know, home decor.
Yeah, I'm not sure. You'll have to let us know. You'll have to keep us posted, Bronnie, if you're pick up any furniture or if you're sticking with all little treasures.
Or maybe she's going for 13 grandfather clocks again. I don't know. So as far as cutting your own stencils, Mara, she has a cutter. What type of cutter do you have? And you've been trying to cut your own?
Me? Yes, I'm sorry. I have somebody who thinks they can come over right now and pick up some furniture.
Oh no!
Not right now. I even said it.
Well, wait, one question. Did they pay for it yet?
They have not.
Oh, well, then you better go get them.
Tell them you'll be ready in 45 minutes.
Yep.
You'll be good to go.
I'm knocking on the door or whatever. I'll be like, yeah. So anyway, I might have to jump up.
Yeah.
That's
anyway,
fine.
What machine do you use? Do you use a silhouette or what do you use?
Yeah, I have the silhouette cutter. And, you know, I've had all different kinds of experience with stencil and stencil material. There's some that are rolled up. I'm trying to think. It's the Cricut. I think they sell one, and it's in a roll. And it is so flimsy that I hate using it. And then there's one that's a little bit more expensive, and it's kind of like a blue color, and it is sticky. It's a little bit more firm, you know, and you have to use the transfer tape. With the real thin one, I've not had any luck with the transfer tape. When you try to take it off, it just rips, and so I just really hate using that one. But there's another blue one that's a little bit thicker, and it does. But for me, those are one-time use. So then Hobby Lobby sells some that are the white ones, like the 5 mil that you were showing. And my machine, because I have an older version of the silhouette, I think I have the very first Cameo, and it does not cut that very well.
So if that's all it's going to take up to is that 5 mil.
Yeah. So what I have to do in order to make those work is to just keep, like when it finishes around, I check it, and if it's not peeling, I just run it again. And I've had to run it 5 or 6 times, even with a newer blade set at the highest setting, because it's just so thick. So I've been doing some research, and I think that what people are doing to get around that is they're using like a laser cutter, if that makes sense. And the new ones are, all the new cameos, and they're pretty much geared to do that kind of stuff. From
Yeah, well, I would imagine some of the places where you can purchase stencils, like off Etsy from people, that's what they're doing. They've got a laser cutter and they're
Oh, for sure.
writing
Yeah.
their own stencils. So
Yeah.
I'm gonna show you a few graphs on the different mils and what that is equal to in millimeters. So you're a little bit more aware of what type of stencil you're purchasing, but they don't always tell you that. And I've gotten a lot of stencils from Amazon or from Temu, and some of them have been really great in a nice heavy mill, but some of them have not been. And like that coffee one that I got off Etsy, that 5 mil, that's just, it was awful. So when you're looking at mills, here's what we've got.
Hey, before you get going with that, can I catch up a couple comments?
Sure.
Okay. Bronnie says she's going to post some pictures of the bottles for us, and she's collecting 3 vintage trunks this morning, and she's waiting in a park, which we call a parking lot. And Gretchen says she's been able to cut the 5 mil, but it's been hard and requires multiple passes. See, I'm starting to learn how you type there. But she says her biggest problem is finding images that she wants to use to create stencils. I just have a little input on that and then carry on, Dar. But, if you use maybe coloring book images, they're a little bit simpler. But also you can get an app on your phone that makes any image into a stencil, because the more intricate the design, you need those bridges. And that's what, and a lot of painters will close those bridges after they're done stenciling. Usually you see those in letters, but anyway, that might be something to consider.
Well, I've gotten files off of Etsy. I've copied things, like, just did a clip and then transferred it over. And I think I might have covered how to do that in a previous show, if I'm not mistaken. But I need that app because the app you're talking about.
Yeah, Chat GPT will break that down into a simple, if you find a picture and tell them that, I want to make a stencil with this. Can you just take this down to its simple outer pattern? And it will, because that painting that I want to create, that some of you have seen, I'm getting ready to possibly start that, and it broke it down for me. And so when I put it on the Wannapai, it'll be easier to trace out with just single lines, almost like a coloring book, just to start with before it starts putting in secondary lines for me. So that is another option. I've had Chat GPT do it for me.
That's a good idea. There's a lot that come up that say tattoo stencil maker, but it's the same thing. And actually, ironically, the one that I've used and I had okay luck with has only a 2.3 rating, but it's called FX Stencil. But there's other ones that have higher ratings, but they all seem to be tattoo related. I actually think in my PixArt, under like effects, there's a stencil one too.
Oh, nice. Very nice. So we'll go back to this lovely graph, and I promise I don't have a ton of them tonight. Stencil thickness cheat sheet. And as always, if there's one of these that you would like to receive, just send us a message to Flippin Bunch at Gmail, and we will send that to you. And the quick rule, of course, the thinner, the more flexible and finer detail you may have, and thicker, more durable, and more stable. And here is where 1 mil is equal to 0.001 inch. So that's pretty minute. But that 5 mil stencil I showed you in the beginning, which was the coffee pot and the coffee, I have a little gauge. It's a millimeter gauge, and I measured all these stencils with the millimeter gauge to give me a better idea of where they really were. And the thickest you can see is not even, it's just taken you up to just over 1/4 of a millimeter down there at the bottom, that 14 mil one, which was our redesigned by Prima stencil, because that's 0.356 of a millimeter. So that's not even hitting 1/2 of a millimeter. And a millimeter is pretty darn small.
Yeah.
And the Made by Marley pulling in there at the 10 mils, that's 0.254 millimeters. And they just give you some general ideas, the 0.5 for fine detail. And that I'm not quite, I guess I've never bought a stencil that has been that thin for fine detail, because I just don't think it would hold up to pouncing or swirling with a brush on it real well. If it's such fine detail, in my mind, it's just going to pull up. You're going to be pulling up all them little fine cuts
Yeah.
where that stencil is at. And I just think that for myself, fine detail should be a little bit more, a 7.5 mil to a 10 mil. Now, I know Made by Marley, she puts a lot of fine details in hers. And I've only had problems with one stencil where it was so fine, I couldn't get my paint to go through. And maybe if I would have thinned my paint out a little bit more, I would have had better luck. But there again, that's where your experience is going to come in with how thick or thin you're going to need your paint to be to get through your stencil.
Yeah, and that's kind of scary to have thin paint, because then you worry about the bleed through.
Yeah.
Kat has joined us. So she said she was here as howling dog, but YouTube's deleting her chats again. So she's watching. So welcome, Kat.
So this other cheat sheet I'm going to share with you, this might be a good one if you want me to send you a copy of, because I know the print's going to be small. I tried to get it as good, as large as I could. And it's another stencil thickness cheat sheet. And it goes over the measurements again. And so I'm not going to really talk a whole lot about it, but it's a pretty handy sheet to have. It looks like this, and it's a stencil thickness cheat sheet, and it goes back down through your mils and how many millimeters they are, their best use, what surface they're best on, and the key advantage to using them at that thickness are. So if you are interested in something like that, let me know. Just quickly down at the bottom where it says an easy memory trick is a 5 to 7.5 mil is going to be flexibility and detail. Your 10 mil, which is Made by Marley size, is your everyday workhorse. And your 14 mil is going to be your durability and stability area. And just, this is more of a visual, just so you can see where it goes in the way of their differences. There's that 5 mil, it's kind of showing it. And then you go to a 7.5 mil, the difference. And then the 10 mil, you could see that it's twice, giving you that visual for the 10 mil. And then that 14 mil, where you're at just kind of an eyeball gauge.
Bronny says, with fine detailing with stencils, you can use ink with a dauber brush. Looks like a toothbrush sort of, and that's great, but it would be laborious for large furniture. But she's used it for smaller pieces. Another thing too is a makeup sponge. They're really good for tiny, they're like a wedge, and they're really good to get in, those tiny spots. Are you going to discuss cutting stencils anymore? Because I have a couple more things to say on that note.
Go ahead.
Okay. Well, we're missing our gal Crystal, and she is famous for cutting her own stencils, and she often uses like craft paper weight, like the weight of a grocery bag. So she cuts them out of paper. So there's no reason to feel intimidated by finding that certain mill. But I will say this myself. I am, I hoard everything. So anytime you purchase anything that's IOD or redesign, you get a free stencil sheet in there. Now this is one that I've bought. This is called a thin mount, and this has a grid on it. But this is a heavier one. But every time you get like a stamp set, they have that cover sheet, and you can certainly use that. I have no idea. Oh, I know what this came out of. I bought a planner and I put it together, and this was in the packing material. And it's like a cloudy, but it's a nice weight. It's just perfect. And you could use that stencil cutter for that. And another tool for cutting stencils that we didn't mention is the good old X-Acto knife. And with that one too, it's the same thing. You just like with that stencil cutter, the electric one, you don't want to lift your point. When you're doing it, turn the sheet instead of trying to lift it and turn it the other way. Get a really sharp point and turn the piece, and you'll have better success cutting. But if you do choose to do like a real thin or the paper like Crystal does, you can certainly use scissors too to cut it out, so as long as you're careful. And another thing you mentioned that I just wanted to comment on, if it's too thin and it has so much detail, that's when you can't really do the swirly twirly, because then you pick up that, detail, whereas pouncing is better for me in that situation.
Yeah, Crystal had to really conquer the amount of paint she put on her stencil brush and the offload to get those to come out without, a lot of bleed through. And if you get some bleed through, you just have to go back and repair it. I mean, So we're ready to talk about some tools. So here are some tools that I just laid out, and the one on the far left that's got the paper wrapped around it, that one would be great for those vinyl stencils where you want to just kind of squeegee that paint on through there. Although I use the stencil brushes, which you can get them in all different shapes and sizes and thicknesses. You can even take an old brush and cut down your ends and use it for a stencil brush without a problem. We go ahead and we get to the daubers, and you can get a dauber that's tiny and small, that's foam, to large if you're doing a bigger stencil. One thing I forgot to mention is the palette knife if you are going to do a raised stencil, which are a lot of fun. And different materials that you can use for raised stencils can be the paint mixed with some sea spray, or what I use now because it's cheaper is Bentonite clay. You can get it really cheap off Amazon. It does the same thing. Mix that in there and use that. And the one thing I forgot to put in there is my roll of tape, which would go along nicely with this can of pattern and stencil adhesive. This is the brand that I use. I know there's a lot of brands out there. I did purchase one brand that gave me a real nightmare, but maybe I should not have sprayed so much on the stencil and tried to stencil in a barn that was about 130 degrees inside because it had a metal roof and it was in the sun all day and the sun sat on it. But I like this. This works pretty good. This is for spraying on the back of your stencil. You let it sit for about a minute. It gets tacky, and then you're able to tack that stencil in place. Great for vertical stenciling, but I still will put a piece of tape, even sometimes if I'm using the stencil spray. I don't know what your experiences are with stencil spray. If you guys have.
I have used it in the past, and let me catch up with comments too, because Bronnie says offloading is so important, and she also says I don't know what others think, but the El Cheapo stencil brushes I don't like for swirly twirly. She prefers a softer but not too soft brush, and that I think is a good point to make because if they're cheap, then the hairs are going to come out. So I think with any brush, massaging it the first time you use it is good to get excess fibers out. Mara says she's got hers from Temu and they work good, but lost bristles quickly. They had a rounded tip and could not be found in local hardware store. I will say I got some that I thought were good at first from Michaels. I liked them, but the ferrule part of the brush, it does not like water at all. They all came apart. Like the glue was terrible. I recently got some from JRV. It's Jamie Ray Vintage. They have a line of brushes, stencil brushes, and I really do like those brushes a lot. And I have Aleene's tacky spray because the other night on my Tuesday talk, or last week, a couple weeks ago, I was working with stamps and they weren't sticking to my sheet. And Bronnie said that Lel uses that for that purpose too. So I did bring that home. So
explain that.
Lavonne,
I'm lost on what you did with that tacky spray and on how
on
you
the
used
stamps.
it. Yeah.
Well, so when you're using a thin mount, like say you want to spell something out, and so you just lay the letters down, and then you put this down, and then you stamp the whole thing. But mine weren't sticking because they're old, and even no matter how much I washed them, they weren't sticking. And she said that Lel had sprayed the letters and then put them on, or the stamp, and put them on the thin mount. So I'm going to give that a whirl because I don't even know if they have the typesetter stamp anymore, but I have used and abused 2 sets of them and I have lost. And
I was thinking you were spraying the front of the what you wanted to stamp. It wasn't making sense to me.
No. And Mara, what were you going to say?
Oh, my question was on both of those sprays. I've used stencil spray. I cannot remember the name brand. It's like Gorilla Glue's brand of it. It gunks up the tip. And then also when I'm done and I want to clean that stencil off and get that sticky stuff off, I can't. It doesn't wash off. It's just
no. I've never had luck getting it off. If anything, there's still stick left on it for the next time.
Yeah, I mean, I think that it has to be like this one and the one you showed, a tacky spray, because otherwise it's meant for adhesion. It's not meant to be pulled back up again. So you need something that's not as tackier. And also let me catch up here. So I guess Gretchen had that experience. I forget the brand of stencil spray I used, but was far too sticky and did not prevent bleed through. Yeah. And then Kat says she has a can of general adhesive spray that she sometimes uses for stenciling and often for upholstery to hold things just a bit. And Bronnie said use a tiny amount. So.
Okay. Now I'm just going to roll this little video 2 minute and I need to kind of explain it before I roll it because it is a complete disaster. And I can't even believe I won a challenge with this piece, but I had to put fixing time into it big time. It starts out with just doing a raised stencil using paint. That was fine. I used some stencil spray because this was when I was not real good at stenciling and I wanted this to come out really good. I was using a 5 mil stencil, that coffee and coffee pot one that were really, really thin. And I sprayed it. I thought, okay, well, I'm going to spray this really good. The spray wasn't real good. I'm going to blame the spray, but the user may have put too much spray on the stencil, thinking it was so flimsy it wasn't going to stay on, and then working in that hot barn. And then what you're going to see is the bleed through. And yeah, it was not good. So here we go. Drop cloth from Dixie Belle. I am going to add about 3/4 cup of sea spray because I want a pretty thick paste. Stencil spray. I can't stencil freehand. I just need to have it sticking on there. I don't know. Maybe I'll get more used to it. Now with that spatula, I kind of go in the direction of what the letter is. And just almost go flat or straight on is the easiest for me. You just have to try it. Pretty good. I liked it. I might have to touch up a little bit on it. Now I have my teacups, coffee cups, and I went ahead and the outside edge creamy white, and I started adding different colors in. They could be Dixie Belle or they could be an acrylic. They could have white mixed in them. I just was mixing up any kind of random colors that I liked. And there we have teacups. Now, the next thing's going to be a coffee pot. And it's going to be a disaster because I use different spray. Here we go. Oh, shit. Well, I had to clean all that mess up. It wasn't fun.
You used an expletive.
Yeah, I wasn't sure if it really came out. I can't believe that I used that in my main video, but you know, you guys could see like that coffee pot, like look at all of that glue on there. Oh my God. And it was so sticky. And then I'll show you the one where that bleed through. See, look at all of the bleed through.
Oh, wow. Well, it's nothing that the rest of us haven't done, I think.
Yeah, how bad is that?
That's what touch-up's all about, right?
I had to repair all that afterwards. But with stencils, you always want to clean them right away if you can. Put them in some water. I use acrylics on my stencils, but what I'm going to tell you is, if I leave them overnight, forget it. You're scrubbing and you're scrubbing hard. and you're scratching that stencil up around on the outside. So next time you put paint on it, that paint goes in all those little scratches and it makes it harder and harder to remove the paint if you can even get it off. I prefer a chalk paint if I can. I try to wash off right away. What I will tell you about using mica powders or metallics in your paint when you're stenciling, those you definitely want to get in water right away, because it has stated in the information it is going to stick even harder to your stencil to get that off because of all the little scratches and stuff that are on the stencil. The actual metal portion and the mica powder is going to go right in the stencil and stay in there. So you need to get them in and wash them out right away. If you wash your stencil brushes, don't use them wet. You're going to get bleed through. I try to really dry them off if I want to use the same brush again. And I mean, I'll take a towel and I'll just rub it on there until it's completely dry. When we want to talk about loading that brush, it all has to do with the consistency of your paint, really. Don't you guys think? Your consistency of what you're working with. If you've got an old jar and that paint's pretty solid in there, like when you scoop in it, you got to kind of shake it off and you get a dollop that sits on your work surface and it kind of holds that form. For me, that's the best kind of paint to stencil with a short stencil brush or even a dauber. Go swirly twirly with your stencil brush. Of course, a dauber you're going to be daubing with. You want to lift your stencil straight up after you're done, not like side. Try to get it and lift it straight up if you can. Another paint we didn't talk about is actually from an air can and a sprayer, but then you got to watch for overspray. And unless it's I don't know, a chalk paint in a spray can, any other kind of spray is going to ruin your stencil. So it's got to have to be a one-time use on your stencil. You're gonna ruin it. So prepare, position, secure, load, remove your excess off, apply, lift and reveal. Remove your excess off on a little piece of cardboard, like, dab it in the paint, remove it, and you will get used to how much and the paint consistency for what you're going to need to get on that stencil and not have any bleed through. Your paint's too watery, it's going to bleed through. I don't know. You guys have any other tricks on that?
No, but I was going to say spray painting, that's really tricky because, when that aerosol comes out, it can move the stencil around, and then it gets underneath it. So I had really good luck using my air sprayer for the halftones in the, what project was that? Pop art.
Pop art, yeah.
Pop art. Yeah, I was going to say, I couldn't think of the word.
Mm-hmm. But I had to hold that stencil down and just do some areas. And I had, black and pink and blue fingers. But that was really the only way that,
So Bronny says about your video, anyone who enjoys those sensory videos with the sounds would love that. Maybe a new audience for you.
Minus the swear words. Yeah.
Yeah.
I know. Let's take a quick look at this troubleshooting guide and think if we didn't catch things that we needed to. Paint bleeds. Too much wet paint. Patchy image. Too little uneven application. That's in the artist's hands. You get kind of different tones throughout your stencil. If it's a big one, I guess you got to be consistent with how much paint you're putting on your brush and how much you're stenciling out. Stencil moves. Oh, goodness, not secure. Go figure.
Yeah.
Edges look fuzzy. Your paint is bleeding. It's getting under the stencil, but just a little bit. Surface or pressure issue. Design doesn't transfer evenly. I'm not quite sure what that means. But
Yeah, I
with
don't
all
either.
them problems we're looking at, I would say it took me at least a good year to stencil decently and to not have to use stencil spray. If I'm doing vertical, I'm probably always going to, tape it up. And of course, they tell you never to put your stencil back down and redo it because you'll get ghosting. Woo!
I remember the first stencil experience that I had was like in the 80s. I remember I bought a plaid book and it had some stencils in it that you could punch out that were like a heavy cardboard. And I just used the heck out of that. And they taught you, through the book how to use it and, just how much you should offload. And they also, taught you shading and everything. So there's a lot of really cool things you can do with stenciling, but I have been doing it forever and I still, get bleed through sometimes. One of the favorite projects I think that I ever did was a border in our living room at the old house that we had, and I used stencil cream, and I forget who made it, but it was so nice. Probably kind of like that posh, what is it?
That like for vinyl, that paste.
Yeah, what is that called again? I said it earlier, and chalk couture. Probably something like that, but I did like it because a whole lot less running risk of it. So comments, let's see. Bronny says vertical, I always use tape, and she thinks that stencils are much more forgiving with ghosting than stamps. I always put them back down if I feel the need.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Stencils, yeah. Stamps, no. Never. I would never attempt it. But we've talked a lot about stencils. What we have not talked about are layered stencils, where you have one color and then you lay that down and another. And I have been looking for those, and I have not seen them anywhere. So I've seen
like a building stencil. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I would not call that layered.
Okay.
Because layered is, layering them on top of each other. Whereas what you're looking at is like a multicolor stencil.
Yes.
So and I've used those too, where like they'll have the registration marks on them. So you do the first piece A, and then it'll have the registration marks that you line up with what you did. And then the second color comes on. So I think plaid has those kits. But that's what I wouldn't look for layered. I would look for like multicolored stencils.
For a building stencil. I have one that's a flower, like you do the first color, which is the back base, and then lay the next stencil on, which starts getting some of the inner parts done on it. And then it has another layer for leaves. Yeah, I've never used it.
Yeah, I've seen somewhere they've done people and characters and stuff, and they don't tell you what it is, and you have to watch all the way through. But I think those are pretty neat. We have not seen a lot of that,
Yeah, because you can get some really intricate designs with those, and that's what I did when I did that around our dining room. Or the living room. That was a layered stencil. So layer after layer had to do. So I guess now Amazon, I took a quick look and Amazon said multi-layer, but what the examples are coming up are not what you're talking about. I do think Plaid made those kits. So maybe if we find that, we can share it.
That can be another episode.
Yeah.
And also, Bronny says the layered stencils you're talking about are so hit and miss for me. They can look super dodgy. Just my experience, maybe an operator error. Oh, I doubt it.
Well, that's how those guys paint those fancy designs on those cars with the layered stencils, but they are using an airbrush. I have an airbrush, and I've airbrushed before, but nothing, like a stencil. So we got some challenges coming up. What's this one here? Oh, that is our friend Corey from Desert DIY. She's got the Ugly Duckling Challenge, and this is a very well attended challenge. So if you think you would like to try to get into that one, here's the promo on that. And you can always go to Desert DIY, and I'm sure she will have that posted up in her posts if you want to get any information on that.
Yeah, it's also on the Flippin Fab YouTubers page. If anybody wants to be added to that, you have to be a YouTuber, but we can add you to that group. And there's challenges that are posted there. Also, a lot of these ones that we're finding out about are on Instagram. So if you're interested in, joining these challenges, let us know. We can hook you up with these people.
And the other thing that I mentioned before about people that follow us here, they don't have a YouTube channel and maybe they want to participate in a Flippin Bunch challenge. You can send your pictures to us and we'll still post them up on what you created. But that's only if it's a Flippin Bunch challenge, not any of the other ones. The next one, which I feel bad. I should have probably tried to promote this while Crystal was gone, but maybe I still can. Let your flowers grow, anything goes, meaning anything goes. Anything that makes you happy at the end of the summer. Of course, it has to be a piece of furniture. Just flip it and dig it. That's all that one's about. And then we have Mars Eco Challenge.
Yes, the Eco Challenge is going to be the Tim Burton tribute. And the focus of this challenge is eco-friendly paint. So, you're thinking about paints that are low VOC. Chalk paints are a perfect example of a paint that's low VOC. I would say with the exception of, there's one Magnolia paints. I don't think they're low VOC. I've used them there, but read your labels and tell us which is your favorite eco-friendly paint. But I think this is gonna be a fun challenge.
Yeah, I have a little bit of the skinny on this challenge. Mara actually has a checkoff list, and she'll check off each eco-friendly thing that you do, and that's how she determines her grand winner. And I think, well, I better not say that, but I know she's given prizes in the past for her challenge. So lastly,
let's do that. Let's do that. Let me think of a good. I'm thinking like an Amazon gift card, so a person could buy paint, eco-friendly paint, if they could find it on Amazon.
There you go.
Or brushes or something. Yeah. So
if you would like to be added to the list to get a Gmail of when our shows are going to start, send your address to the Flippin Bunch at gmail.com. Or if you would like any of the sheets that I shared, screen sheets, let us know and give us your email address, and we'll send those out to you, which I do look. I make sure I go back and I look if I make that promise. And if you'd like to be notified on a text when our show is going live, just enter the word live to 814-515-4905, and our lovely Lavonne will send you a reminder. And if
Yeah,
we don't have any other
and
questions, I think we made it our hour here, and you're
well,
probably us.
couple comments. Let's see. Bronny wanted to know if anybody started their eco-friendly challenge, and she said that she has printed out her paper.
Oh,
So everybody can't wait to see that. And she's telling us to have a lovely week. Glad she could join in with her travels. We're glad you were all along too. Gretchen says she's hoping to get to the 829 challenge, the unique antique challenge, with a project she's partially completed. And she said, I'm dreaming as my work has just begun. Hey, I'm with you there, sister.
yeah.
All right. Well, thank you, Dar,
Thanks,
for
everybody,
hosting.
for coming in. I'm hoping Crystal comes back.
I know, we
She's-
really miss her. We
Yeah,
don't
we
do.
do.
She comes back
Yes.
on a Tuesday. Guess what? Who's doing the show on Wednesday?
Yeah, right.
I made
We
her
won't
do
do
it
that to
before
her.
she left. I'm so mean.
We won't do that to her.
Well, she
Maybe
better come back
maybe.
soon, because I'm planning a trip out to Michigan and I'm gonna meet you guys.
Yeah, that means Dar's got to leave the county. She's got to get in a car and leave the
That's
county.
right. You have to go somewhere.
Well, you guys, thanks for hanging out with us, and we're glad we didn't echo tonight.
Yeah, we're really glad about that.
After everything we looked at, I think it was a StreamYard problem, and it was not even us, because
think
we
so, too.
really tried to problem solve that issue. So if that's it, we'll say goodbye to everybody. Bye.
See you guys. Bye.